Welcome to It's True, Tales of the Paranormal, exploring the inexplicable. Most encounters with the odd are quite explainable. An overwhelming number, 80 to 90% in fact, will find very logical explanation. Our focus is on that 10 to 20% that do not. It's time to give a voice to real encounters and share genuine experiences of the paranormal. And now, it's true.
Thank you and welcome to It's True, Tales of the Paranormal. McInteer Villa in Atchison, Kansas. Now, if you're a subscriber, you're familiar with Atchison because of the Sally House. You're familiar with Atchison, Kansas because it boasts 3 of the top 8 most haunted places in the state. One of those being McInteer Villa. It was built in 1889, yes, rich in history, just a couple of decades after the Civil War, built by John McInteer. Now, John was an Irish immigrant from Philadelphia. He was a harness maker turned entrepreneur when he recognized the possibilities of the rush to the West and the hub of activity that Atchison created as a gateway to that rush. He set up shop in Atchison, becoming quite wealthy, and built the beautiful McInteer Villa. It's changed ownership hands several times in the last 140 years or so, and has much activity to report. At least 9 deaths have been documented there, including one suicide in 1922. Moving furniture, moving boxes, shadow figures, footsteps, opening doors, and a lot of stuff to get to. We're going to explore it today and do so with Brooke from Afterlife Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma. She's investigated the McInteer Villa multiple times. She's even writing a book on the haunted history of Atchison. So we'll get into it all next on It's True, Tales of the Paranormal. All right, back on It's True, Tales of the Paranormal, and joined now by my favorite paranormal investigator in all of Oklahoma, Brooke Montoya. Brooke, how's that feel? That's got to be better than an Emmy, right?
I love it.
Yeah. Well, you can practice your acceptance speech, and then next time you're on, you can just give that and thank all the little people. So how are you today?
I am so good. It is
Good.
snowing here.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. We just don't get a lot of that here. So that's good. Good for you. Wonderful. But I wanted to talk about the McInteer Villa. Beautiful building. Beautiful structure.
Yeah.
Built in 1889, so it's got plenty of history. And I know you are attuned into that history, having, writing a book about that area. Tell us about your experiences with the McInteer Villa.
Yeah, so we have actually been there, I think, 4 times now. 3 were overnight investigations, and then 1 we had just toured it when we first heard about it. So we are really familiar with the house. It's literally one of our favorite places to investigate. I would say out of all the places I've been in the 8 years that I've been doing this, it is hands down the most active place. I don't know if it's just active. Like, I think a lot of people feel that way, but then I think other people, I think it responds to certain teams differently,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we get really good interaction out of the home and the spirits that are there. And it is, you're right, it is just immaculately beautiful. It's huge, but it's also really beautiful inside. The owner, Stephanie, has done a great job at really just making it look beautiful, as though it was frozen in time, with the furniture and the decor. And it's just upkept very well.
Have you, you've done 3 investigations. You've been there 4 times. Obviously, you're getting some activity there. Have you had activity on each and every visit, or is it that active?
Yeah. So, yes, Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, it's this weird, like, maybe some other investigators might feel connected like this to other places, but it's like, it's almost like you build a connection with the house and you're like, oh, like, we can't wait to go back. We're going back in May and we're going to stay 4 nights, 5 days.
Oh, wow.
So
All right.
that's a long time. We've never stayed that long at a location, and we're not even filming anything. We're just doing it because we love the house, and
just because. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is the activity that you've experienced, is it similar from touch point to touch point, or have you had? I mean, you might hear voices in one session and then see things move in another. I mean, what exactly have you experienced there?
So I'll do the best I can. Sometimes like things start to run together when you've been to a location a few times. But I will say we've caught EVPs. So things that are, and honestly, the last time we were there, it didn't even have to be on recording. We were just setting up cameras. It was our first night there. We were staying 2 nights, and we were walking down the hall upstairs on the 2nd floor. And I didn't hear it in real time. There was 4 of us. 2 people in the front heard it with their ear, and the 2 of us in the back did not. But when you listen to it on camera, it seems to follow us down the hall as we go downstairs to the 1st floor. And then we had 2 people sitting in the dining room, which is just at the foot of the stairs, watching cameras. And so they said, did you hear that? Were one of you whistling? And then the 2 that heard it said, oh, no, that was so-and-so talking about us in the back. And we were like, no, we weren't whispering, but I didn't hear anything. And neither did she. We went back and listened to it. It was like a man was walking behind us, following us down the stairs, whistling. And it had this tune to it, like it was like a song. We posted it. Nobody could place the song. Like nobody recognized the tune to it. But it was as loud as I am talking to you now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you couldn't recognize the tune. There's an app for that. I wonder if you...
Yeah, Shazam. Yeah, we'll see if Shazam can. I'm like, show tunes, anything. Well, I don't know.
Wow.
It sounded like I had a purpose.
I'd like to know what era that was from, if nothing else. That's great. So I know there are reports of moving, doors opening, rocking chairs moving, boxes moving. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's something you just don't see happen. I mean,
definitely,
have you heard these reports and experienced anything like this?
Yeah, strong energy, doors moving. The last time we were there, again, this 2 nights that we stayed, we had a beach ball sitting on the back stairs, and the back stairs seemed to be the most active when we're there. Okay. So we had this beach ball sitting on the back stairs, and at first it wasn't even that inflated. So if you can imagine an kind of deflated beach ball sitting on the stairs, it would take a lot more to move it. Yeah. That sucker came down on its own, and we heard it thud, 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 because it's like deflated, right? Mm-hmm. So we went back and looked at the camera, and you can see this like little orb kind of go by right as it starts to fall. That happened 3 more times while we were there. We inflated it more. We tried a different stair. One time we had an investigator sitting at the bottom of the stairs playing music, and it fell while she was sitting there. So the last time we were there, that didn't happen at all. But the one time that we stayed 2 nights, it happened 4 times while we were there.
Wow, 4 times.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know there are 9 deaths that have been documented there. So is there a good feel, a good sense of who might be still lingering in spirit form?
Yeah, great question. I think that we have made, and I think there's different spirits in different places, so it's hard to say, right? There's there's something in the basement that is really playful, but also some people feel a little bit more uneasy around. So maybe there's multiple things in the basement. What we have encountered as playful, we have those little, are you familiar with the little cat balls that light up when you touch them?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we'll set them around, and they really like dirty jokes, which, listen, I'll look those up and we'll talk about those all day long. So we'll tell dirty jokes. I'm telling you, if you tell a joke that's not that funny or it's not dirty, the dirtier the better, and it will light up
Right.
multiple lights at the same time.
Wow.
And then we'll cheer and we'll laugh, and then it'll light it up again because we're cheering. It loves the interaction. Yeah.
So it just set up a TV and play a Melissa McCarthy movie from the, a couple, right? And it would love it. You'd probably get all kinds of interaction there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never heard of an entity being responsive to dirty jokes. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, we've tried it at other places too, but that basement really responds to it. And then there's something a little. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Oh, there's something a little darker in other areas of the basement that makes people feel uncomfortable. One of our teammates, the first time we visited that building, when she went into the basement, she saw kind of a man that was older that looked really, really not happy that people were down there. So he might be and I don't know who he is, but something, there may be multiple things down there.
Okay. Well, that was my next question, Brooke, because I know a lot of our subscribers will remember you from the Sally House investigation, and you did mention that there was something a little darker that you felt was existing there. Aside from that experience, have there been darker spirits attached to the McInteer Villa in your experience?
Well, I don't think that anybody has really been like scratched or pushed that I'm aware of.
And that has happened at the Sally House, right? So
yeah. And I mean, I don't get the feeling that there are things that are there that seem hurtful. There may be things that are there that don't want others there, but it doesn't seem to be as vengeful as some places that you've heard stories about. There is a tall shadow figure that's been captured on pictures. Stephanie has them posted on her website. She posts a lot on there, actually, because she has cameras all over the house.
Yeah.
And it's been captured by teams taking a picture down the hallway. It hangs out in a specific room. We took a picture of the outside building because we were asleep one night and the motion light in the front yard kept going on. So she has these skeletons that are on an old schooner type, wooden, whatever. And they have lights on the yard that are motion lights. So if anybody comes on the yard, so I'm like, okay, somebody is effing with us, right? Who is coming up to the property?
Yeah.
And we went out there to check it out and nobody was out there and the light still kept going on when nobody was on the property. Well, we took a picture of the outside of the house and we caught the shadow in this room in the window. And then other people have caught it looking out the door or in the hallway.
Is this a full-bodied apparition shadow or just a dark shadow?
It's this black figure. Yeah. It doesn't really... I think in one picture it had the eyes were kind of lit up, but it's more just black. You can't really make out features. Okay. So in some of our communication, when we're interacting with the equipment and it's going off in an intelligent way, we feel like we have connected to Charles Conlon, who committed suicide in the home.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In 1922, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I know that it's a theory that a more traumatic death might prompt these entities to linger in whatever form they're in instead of crossing over. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that kind of trauma in end of life situations?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things that could be happening, right? I think that there's the residual energy that's maybe left behind from a suicide or a murder that may feel like heavy energy, and maybe there's some activity that happens because of it, but you wouldn't necessarily maybe get intelligent responses.
Okay.
And then I think that I'm wondering if Charles is kind of fearful about crossing over. This
From
is
the suicide?
well, I would say
basis,
that,
or-
and then also we did an Estes session. Are you familiar with what that is?
No. What is that?
Where one person wears headphones that are like noise canceling headphones, and then also in the audio is the ghost radio that filters through the AM FM, really fast, rapidly.
Right.
So they can't hear anybody else in the room, and they hone in and they say the words that are coming out, and then we ask questions. And so spirit can use that ghost box to manipulate it and speak to us.
Okay.
Then also the person that had the headphones at the time is also a medium. So some of it might be coming through the ghost box. Some of it she might be picking up on energetically. But there was a lot of shame in people finding out something or shame in his situation before he committed suicide. And I've talked to Stephanie about my theory because I had no idea that she was thinking the same thing. And I hope this is okay to talk about. But whenever I was hearing him come through, I wondered if he was gay and he was living in a time that maybe, one, he was in the military. He also came home sick. But there's no reports of him ever going on a date. And, like back then they reported everything. And Charles really just kind of stuck in the house, and he lived with his mom. And he never really kind of made a life for himself outside of leaving for the military. And he was in his 30s. And so I wonder if he couldn't live the life he wanted to live, if that was part of his story. And when I talked to Stephanie, she confirmed some of the things that she was thinking too. But that's what we kind of gleaned from that Estes session.
Okay. All right. And he was in his 30s. This was 1922 when he committed suicide, right? So
yeah, I believe he was like,
and in that
30s. He
period,
went into the military late.
In that period, you married very early, right? I mean, so if you're in your 30s, then that I think that's an interesting theory. So
yeah.
What were Stephanie's feelings on that?
Well, that's kind of what. That's when we talked about it. That's what she had thought too, and hers was because when she was looking through the newspaper, there's no record of him ever going anywhere social with another woman or anything like that. So,
did they report the dating scene like that in that era?
Especially people who were highfalutin around there, right? Like if you had money, they talked about, even people that didn't have money, they're like, so-and-so had a baby, or so-and-so went and visited their parents in Kansas City over the weekend, or so-and-so's son took out this person's daughter to the formal dance. Yeah. Could you imagine, Scott, if we were in the newspaper with every person that came to visit your house or everywhere you went?
I tell you, Charles would have a field day today, wouldn't he? Charles on Grindr picks up so-and-so.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. That would, wow. I had no idea. That's really fascinating. But go on. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so he didn't say it specifically, but that's kind of what I was gleaming from maybe my intuitive feelings were that was kind of what was wrapped around some of the shame and the that people had found out maybe.
Yeah, could be. Absolutely. And you got a consistent message of that guilt, that shame from, and you knew it was Charles. He identified himself as Charles.
Yeah, he was talking about certain things. He was talking about the military and being sick. This has been several years back, so I don't remember all of the things that happened in that conversation, but it was very, we could definitely tell that that's who we were talking to in that space.
Brooke, did you mention the prospects of moving on? Did you mention the possibility of his orientation? Is that anything?
Not at that time. It's something that we definitely want to try again. I remember the energy was so strong and so sad for the person that was connecting with him that she actually had to really cut it short eventually and kind of take some time to, but she is really, really in tune and sensitive. And I think that house also loves her because the last time we were there, the first night we stayed the night, she got touched in the middle of the night. It was almost like like if two hands came down on your stomach and kind of like tickled you or kind of like moved your blanket. It didn't feel aggressive, but in the middle of the night, it scares the you know what out of you.
Oh my, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all of we have shared everything on our Facebook. So anybody's welcome to go look up our live feeds or our clips and see the things that we're talking about. Even that we were able to share because Stephanie sent us the video. So
yeah. Wow. Yeah. That would be so wild to be, you know, I've never seen an apparition or shadow figure or anything, but to wake up to that kind of, you know,
being touched,
wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. I was laying next to her and I have to say I'm glad it wasn't me. She's like, Brooke, wake up. I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
But you know, my defense mechanism is usually humor, Brooke. So if that happened to me, I'd be like, not tonight, honey. I'll rock your realm tomorrow, but not tonight.
All right, Scott, we'll see. We're going to put you in one of those rooms. We'll see if that's your response.
I want to go with you. I think that would be great. May, I've got circled now. That's great. But it sounds like you've had some fascinating experiences there, and you keep going back. Yeah. So it's certainly worth checking out. Anything else to report about McInteer?
Let me think.
I know the website mentions some glowing eyes in.
Yeah, I don't know if that.
That sounds a little darker.
It does. It does sound scary. I mean, I don't know. It could be. We slept in the room right next to the room that has that shadow figure. So it could be, you know, who knows? Was it children? We have seen, our medium has seen children, a little boy specifically. One time when she was walking up the stairs, he kind of passed by her, and other people, Stephanie has said, reported children or hearing children play.
Are they among the 9 that are documented?
No, because nobody had, like, maybe relatives visited with children.
Yeah.
But you have to think about, too, the town of Atchison, Kansas is so extremely haunted. I truly believe that spirits are just finding locations that have people coming in them all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you think about, like, one, people who are connected to the other realms radiate a higher vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to work on that in order to connect with people who have passed away and things like that. So the more you raise your vibration, the easier it is to connect. But they can see that. And so they're attracted to that. They're also probably attracted to paranormal investigators coming and talking to them. So if it's like, ooh, I want this interaction, I want to hang out and play with you, they're going to seek out those locations that people visit all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
So they may not necessarily have a direct attachment to a property, but
sure.
in terms of the overall area, they can just, I mean, you know, we have no idea how transient these entities are and how they can filter through this location or that location or what have you. So
I mean, so true, right? Like, it's so hard to make sense. Why do some seem to only be in this one room, or are they stuck there and some are not? I mean, we've investigated houses where they were coming from the graveyard, you know, that was next door. So I mean, there's so many things that we just don't know, you know?
Well, these weren't residual hauntings, these the medium experienced. These were interactive, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. Well, it's a great place, and you're going back out in May, right?
Yeah, we're going to stay a whole week.
All right,
and we'll do live. So if anybody wants to follow us on our Facebook page, we go live on our. So we have a page and we have a group. They're both called Afterlife Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma. We have a little ghosty girl, like she's wearing a flowered sheet, so you know that's us.
Okay.
But we go live from our page, so make sure you join our page and our group.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. Outstanding. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for all the insight into McInteer Villa. It is a beautiful structure. We're seeing if it didn't have an entity at all attached to it, because it's
oh my gosh,
such history there.
Just a piece of history that's a fabulous piece of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John McInteer, his own history, the Irish immigrant that turns into an entrepreneur that ends up in Atchison, and he's got an interesting history himself attached to it. So
absolutely,
it's excellent. So, well, thanks for coming on. And appreciate you, and look forward to our next round, because I'm sure we'll be back in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to It's True, Tales of the Paranormal. Subscribe today to receive updates on new episodes and Tales of the Paranormal.